Hi, everyone. It's another edition of the Talkback Show on Women's Football Today. And we've got this evening, we've got Jude, who you've seen on the channel before, from the Manchester City Women's Football Club, OSC, that's Official Supporters Club. And from the FSA, you work with them as well. How are you doing, Jude?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Nice to be back. How are you, Ray?
Could be better. You know me, could be better. Not a great weekend if you're a Man City fan. And we got Neil Mather. Now, Neil is an ex-Manchester City women's team manager. How you doing, Neil?
Very well, thank you, Ray. How are you?
I'm all right. Well, you know, we've been talking about penalties all weekend, and we're going to try and not talk about them too much. And look, guys, I'll just give you the brief details. Chelsea have won the title today. They absolutely thrashed Reading. City have finished second after a narrow win against West Ham, where the aforementioned penalties, there were two saved. They weren't missed. Got to give the keeper credit. She saved two penalties. Arsenal finished third. They get the Champions League spot. United, from being top at Christmas or in November. I mean, the titles are never handed out in November. I'm sure they'll be reminded constantly. They finished fourth. Bristol City relegated. Birmingham had a points deduction. You might want to talk about that. Is it unfair on the fans? Birmingham only had one sub today. West Ham only had three. Is that something you want to see in the women's game at the elite level in this country? You want to talk about the FA Cup next weekend? We can talk about that. The Olympics are coming up on the horizon. Players are injured. Others are coming back from injury. We've had transfers, some big transfers. Are the American players going to stick around in the Women's Super League, or are they going to disappear back over the pond and play back in America? There's lots of rumours about that. Are the players you want to see coming to your club? There's lots of rumours flying around about players coming to the Super League or back to the Super League. Some strikers in Oshuala. There's Khadija Shaw being talked about. Nikita Paris is rumoured to be coming back to the Super League. So there's lots of stuff if you want to get involved. And it doesn't have to be about Super League. It can be about anything to do with women's football, from the top level to grassroots. We're going to bring in the first guest here. I don't know what Rob is going to talk about. Rob, a Chelsea fan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm not too bad, thank you. It's been quite a nice afternoon, actually.
I thought it would be. It took about 70 seconds for you guys to score.
And 9 seconds exactly. And suddenly the nerves were a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, I assume, because I didn't watch the game, that it was pretty much done and dusted quite quickly.
It's difficult because, as soon as at the end of the day, Reading are themselves a decent team of the sort of side that can give anyone a bloody nose in the league. So before the game, there was always that doubt. But Chelsea started with such intensity. I mean, they nearly scored within 30 seconds and sort of won a corner. And from the corner, it was a clever routine played in. And as soon as sort of Liverpool's connected to it and it was going through a crowd of players and it went in, at that point, you sort of never really looked back. But at the same time, Reading, they made us work for it. It wasn't as if they completely rolled over. And it was more due to excellent brilliance, I think, from the league's two standout players in Fran Kirby and Sam Kerr, were why that scoreline was so, decisive today, rather than Reading sort of rolling over or anything, sort of rolling over to give Chelsea the title.
Yeah, I started watching one game on the telly, another one on my phone. I took my phone away after 2 minutes because she'd scored and give that up. So, Rob, have you got a question or a point you want to discuss with the panel?
So I think there's a couple of points I'd sort of like to make. It'll be sort of interesting discussions. Is that firstly, obviously, today we've seen BT's last sort of broadcast of WSL. How much do we think their TV deal has helped grow the game, and how much do we think the Sky deal can help grow it further? So what's the next step in that regard? And also, what role do sponsors have in helping to play it? Because I want to give a real shout out to 3 Chelsea sponsor, because they've been absolutely magnificent this year. And one of the big things I love about the 3 sponsorship is that they treat both sides of the team, both sides of Chelsea Football Club, as the elite European teams that they are. And so you see constant coverage of both sides of it. You see them doing media work on both sides of it. And quite frankly, I've spoken to a lot of other supporters of WSL teams, and they're just very jealous of the level of sort of depth that you get. And then the other question, I think, is that out of realistically, if you have to pick between Fran Kirby and Sam Kerr, as I think they probably are the 2 standout names, who takes Player of the Year and why?
Okay, who wants to go first? We'll talk about the is it the TV deal? So Jude or Neil?
I can. Although I think BT have done a great job in fairness, and any TV deal. Neil. Although I think BT. Sorry, I'm repeating myself here.
I think we might have your speaker on, Neil. Have you got something on in the background, or is it just me?
No.
It's just me. Keep going. Sorry.
So, but I don't think there's any doubt that Sky is a bigger broadcaster. More people have Sky, So I think, although I'm critical of Sky in a lot of ways, I think Sky, women's football going on Sky is going to take it to another level. I think Sky is a bigger broadcaster. More people have it. More people. It's more accessible for people. I think it's great news for women's football, to be honest with you. Although, like I say, BT deserves some credit, I think it's a great thing for us.
Yeah, I think on the flip side of that, though, and I agree with everything that you've just said, Neil, but I also think from supporters who actually go to watch the games in the stadiums, that's my concern. So, I'm a Manchester City fan. Rob, you're a Chelsea fan. We already know early starts for a lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday or a Sunday. We know what time we have to leave home in the morning. You start doing kickoffs on a Friday evening. You start doing kickoffs on a Sunday evening, which is some of the times that we're being told that the kickoffs will be. That is going to impact fans in the stadium. Because a lot of families go and watch City. Yeah, I mean, Neil, yourself, Lily comes along. A lot of kids come and watch the game. So, Friday night not so bad, but Sunday night, it's a school night. They're not going to go. People work as well. I know people work throughout the week and the weekend. Different jobs, different shifts. But typically, on a Friday night, there's nothing like a game under the lights. It's great. I love a game under the lights. But it can impact. The only thing that I hope is that enough people start watching the game at home on the telly and go, I want to go and watch that in the ground. And they start to move with their feet, and it kind of impacts it that way. So maybe the negative effect won't be as much. But I think it's great in one way, and I think BT have done a really good job. To be fair. But like you say, Sky, it's a bigger platform. Interesting to see what's going to happen with the Women's Champions League, because obviously BT have got the Men's Champions League, so we'll see what happens with that. But I think UEFA are trying to do some kind of European-wide. I'm going to use the word thing. I don't quite know what to call it, but as to how they're going to show it. But yeah, it's been interesting to see where that pops up, because I think with the lockdowns this year, we've seen more of the Champions League for the women than we've ever seen on the telly. Yeah. So I'd like to see that continuing.
Agreed.
I think one of the things that is a concern for a match-going fan, there's no doubt about it. This has been the argument with men's football for ever and a day, hasn't it? That they mess about the match going fan. 1 minute, you think your game's on at this time, and then the next minute it's moved to another time and another day. And so it is a massive thing, because like I say, with a daughter, an 8-year-old daughter who loves going to the women's game. Well, she won't be going on a Sunday night for a kickoff. You know what I mean? And probably unlikely be going on a Friday night if it starts becoming evening football for a young child. You can't take them, which is a real shame, because there's nothing to beat going to the match. And Lily's actually a good example of this. Lily tends not to watch the football on television. So this season, men and women's football, despite the fact that she goes to watch the men and the women, she doesn't watch it on television. She hasn't got as much interest as actually being there. So how many children do we lose, because of the opportunity of not going to the match? Would we lose interest in the game? It is a concern, but like I say, this has been an argument, an ongoing argument for 30 years now, really, hasn't it?
I mean, certainly in all of my lifetime. Again, I think it's not sort of just following on from that as you sort of talk to. Do you think there's now a responsibility then for, because we're talking about these bigger deals, for them the sponsors now to get involved and sort of try and push for better kickoff times and sort of work with the fans in some cases and work with the supporters groups and try and, because I appreciate Sky coming out with that schedule, but as you sort of said, if they want to get high enough attendances, then late sort of night games if you have, the London derbies and sort of, the Manchester derby on a Friday night, I'm sure you will still be packing out Etihad campus and sort of packing out Kings Meadow for those games. But if you perhaps, have some lesser games, maybe sort of in the winter on a sort of Friday night where there's sort of less weather and perhaps, more fair weather fans sort of possibly not attending, do you think that then that's the job for the sponsors to make it more of an incentive and sort of, pressure these media companies?
Ideally, but quite frankly, how much influence the sponsors have, how much influence the fans have. But at the end of the day, football has been run since 1992. Under the television's rules. Television tells us when we're doing what we're doing. I mean, so quite frankly, as lovely as it would be, how much influence could they have? I don't think they'll have a great deal of influence. I think Sky will pretty much dictate now what happens and when it happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the clubs need to be involved as well, because I agree. I'm not quite sure what the sponsors could do so much, but the clubs need to speak up. Player welfare. We all talk about player welfare. I mean, I know this. We're talking about the women's game today, but look at United with the men's team. They've got 3 games in what, five days. So player welfare comes into this as well. And I guess obviously as City fans and obviously as Chelsea fans, we're fortunate that the women's team have the facilities which are on par with the men's. That isn't the same across the board. So if it comes to things like traveling, it can be the difference of does the club travel there and back in the day, or do they stay in a hotel? And obviously the difference that makes on the player is big. But I'm not quite sure. It's a tough one. I mean, certainly with the Football Supporters Association, we have a women's network, of which most of the clubs in the WSL have representation on there. From the supporters clubs, and we're right across. We've got members in the Championship and across the National League as well. So that's really growing, and we're trying to build that up and building that engagement with the FA as well. So obviously that's been it's very well established across the men's game with the Premier League and the EFL and the national game. So the women's is coming behind, and it only really started sort of after the Women's World Cup in 2019, so it's really sort of taken off sort of during 2020 and early this year. So clearly a long way to go, but it's that building that relationships and having, we've had initial meetings with the FA and things like that. So it's just sort of getting that awareness and having a voice for the women's game from a supporter's perspective. We should have exactly the same amount of say as whether you're in a women's club or whether you're in the Premier League or the EFL across the men's network as well. So I definitely see that looking to grow over the next couple of years as well.
Yeah. Guys, if you are watching, you can comment, you can say hi. We will say hi back, and if you've got any questions, we'll put them to the panel. So you can just type in the comments on YouTube. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to just ask you to stay on for a little bit, Rob, because I've got a video from another Chelsea fan. So what we do on this on the channel is some people will submit videos pre-recorded because they can't be here. They've got either work or they're playing or they've got kids or whatever, and other people will come on live. So I've got a video from Dean. I'll put Dean on. He's a Chelsea fan. I'm sure you know who he is. Let's pop it in. And he's got a question.
Hi guys, Dean Mears here from Wentworth Kings Meadow, the Chelsea Women's podcast. My question I'd like to discuss is around Beth England. She has had her injury troubles this year, but she has also found playing time very limited, thanks to the strike force of Frank Kirby, Sam Kerr, and Pernilla Harder. Do you see a situation where she leaves Chelsea in the summer to look for more regular football, or do you think she's happy competing for that place in a squad that is obviously doing fantastically well in search for his trophies? Thanks very much.
Right, just waiting for that video to disappear off my screen. It's still on my screen. My machine doesn't like all these videos that I've got loaded up. Well, what I will say, if you can hear me, my screen's frozen, I apologise for that, is we talked with some Chelsea fans earlier in the season about Beth England. She's in the mid-20s, I think 25 or 26 years old. She's a cracking player, but she's not getting that much game time, obviously, at Chelsea. And we were looking at, obviously I'm as City fans, we were looking at whether she might be suitable for City. So I'll ask you guys, what do you think? I'll start with Rob, obviously, because you're a Chelsea fan.
I think people forget how influential Beth England was last year. Obviously, although the season was disrupted, how influential Beth was when Sam Kerr was perhaps still adapting to the league, and also with the injury to Fran Kirby. And I think at times this season, people have perhaps, again, she's had her own issues with injury and her own sort of issues with illness, sort of concussion in the last few months. Beth England has still had a really solid season for a centre forward. She's sort of, I think, chipped in double figures of goals in all competitions, got something about 9 assists. And ultimately, I think there are a couple of questions at Chelsea. Number one is that I don't know how much longer Sam Kerr's going to stay, because, she made it clear she wanted to come over and win trophies, and potentially she's going to end the year with a quadruple, a quintuple if you count the Community Shield, if Chelsea do win everything. And, it was already won sort of 4 trophies with the club, has won the WSL Golden Boot. It's sort of, she's made it clear that she also does feel, homesickness for Australia, and it must have been very difficult in the last year, especially due to the pandemic. So I think there's that aspect of it, of Sam Kerr's longer-term future. The other unknown is whether Chelsea don't sign Lauren James, and, left out of the matchday squad today for Manchester United. Increasingly, the links are happening. There's been sort of talk over it, and the fact of the matter is there is the link to Reece James. As long as there is, that familial link, there is, and the fact she is also a Chelsea fan, there's always going to be that speculation. The other thing is Beth England herself is also a Chelsea fan, and makes it pretty clear, that she is a Chelsea fan and that she loves everything that's going on at the club. And it's whether, is there that trade-off that you're willing to maybe sacrifice sort of game time in order to sort of stay at a club you love and in an environment you're really happy in. I certainly think, I will happily say, I think Beth England could start for, every other team in WSL, bar maybe Arsenal. I don't think she's better than Miedemar, if I'm completely honest, but I think probably she would start for every other side in WSL, because I think Miedemar and Kerr are the only 2 strikers that regularly on their day are better. So I think, it's a really interesting sort of summer to come up. She does also have a long contract with the club. I think it's 2024 it expires. So, there's going to be, if she does leave, there's going to need to be a significant fee paid by someone. And with the names that, you're seeing City sort of linked with Shaw, you're seeing linked with Oshalaja, Arsenal have the Miedemar question of whether she's going to renew. If it's hard to see where she goes in many ways if she stays in England.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested how she is a Chelsea fan when she was born in Barnsley.
I think I'm not going to comment on who should be a fan from where. I'm not going to have that discussion. But it's she, if you look at her tweets and stuff, you will realise that she is the other day she was, for example, live tweeting the men's sort of Champions League. So I'm probably live tweeting about. I know, for example, she did definitely tweet about Marcus Alonso's winning yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough of the Chelsea fans. I'll ask Neil and Jude. Would you take Beth England at Manchester City?
Yes. In a word.
Yeah.
What would she bring then? What will she bring that's different to what Man City have got already?
Pace for a kickoff. I think we lack a little bit of pace up front. I totally agree with Rob. Everything Rob said. It does all depend on ifs and buts, and what does Sam Kerr do? What does Miedemar do? It's very difficult, isn't it, to sort of. If I'm Beth England, I want to play football. Simple as that. You know what I mean? And if I'm Beth England, I wouldn't. Although delighted with winning trophies and stuff like that, there's got to be something in the back of your mind that thinks, yeah, it's not. I've not been really part of that though, have I? How much of I know what you're saying, Rob, that she's scored so many goals and stuff like that, but she's really a first name striker, isn't she? She's the first name on the team sheet as a striker. And if you're not playing week in, week out, there's got to be a nagging doubt in the back of her mind that says, I should be playing. Now, it all depends, doesn't it? It all depends. I suppose that's a conversation that will be had at the end of the season between Emma and Sam and Beth and everybody else. You know what I mean? That we don't know. We're not party to that, obviously.
If Sam decides, like you say, Rob, she's missing her family and everything. If she decides to leave now, then that surely is a slot for Beth England to move into.
Well, that's your answer, isn't it? But if she stays, then if I'm Beth, I'm wanting to move on to play.
I suspect there's only so long you can hang around a club and keep winning trophies without contributing too much. If you're a really good player, and she is a really good player, so maybe she'd want to stick around for another year.
And also kind of throw in the international.
She'll miss out
stuff into the mix, because at the moment, again, if I'm picking England's team, if I'm picking Great Britain's Olympic team, I don't pick her because she's not playing. And she should be picked. You know what I mean? Yeah. She should be. She's good enough to be in those squads. But I wouldn't. Like I say, I've been a manager a long time, and I wouldn't pick her, because I'd be picking people that are playing week in, week out, that do that are on the pitch. Simple as that. And again, as a player, looking at as a player, again, I'd be thinking, well, am I missing out on international caps? Am I missing out on Olympics, on World Cups, on European Championships? I can't afford to do that. Afford to do that. So it's tough. It's tough, to be fair.
Yeah. To see if Jude comes back. Have you got a comment about Beth England, Jude? What do you feel?
Sorry, I had to let the dog out. He was sat there whinging at me. I'd take Beth England at City, and I was having a conversation with a Chelsea fan about it in the week, actually. So, and they were saying they were really frustrated that she wasn't getting any game time. I think I've said on here before, Ray. City never replaced Paulina Bremer.
Yeah.
When she left, so we've kind of got a gap there as well, and I think she'd slot in quite nicely. She's quick. If you then, obviously Chloe Kelly's now going to be out for probably most of next season with her ACL, and the speed of Hemp there as well. I think that could be quite a dangerous combination up top. But I think with regards to staying at a club because you're a fan, I think now we're in a position now. I mean, obviously these women are professional, full-time athletes, and they want to play. They absolutely want to play. So, you'd like to think that having the opportunity to go and play, if that means going somewhere else, that's probably going to be likely to happen. I mean, Abby McManus is probably a good example. She played for Manchester City for years, die-hard Red. Manchester United decided that they wanted to join the party and have their women's team back again. She left. She was playing, and then she wasn't playing. I think she may have got injured, but then she's just not got back into that lineup. And she was being consistently called up to England. That stopped. So she's now on loan with Tottenham. So because she wants to get that opportunity to try and get back into the England squad. And you can maybe say the same with Jill Scott. She's gone to Everton. KB's gone across to, who is it in the US? Can't remember. Was it Rain? Can't remember.
I can't remember.
But she's gone across to the US for exactly the same thing, because Hege Riise has made it very clear that, if you're not playing and you're not performing, you're not going to get picked. I sit behind a desk for my job, but, I'm a professional. It's my job. I will move different companies to go and get, it's not necessarily more money, but it may be, more, better experiences, more opportunities. I'm going to learn more, opportunities to go and do new things. And, that's what professional sports people will do as well. It's a similar thing in my simple head. So it'd be interesting to see what happens over the summer, though, because lots of contracts are up. And I think you're right. Beth's is up in about 2024. So somebody
she had a long one last year. Because it wouldn't surprise. I'll also say it wouldn't surprise me if something was agreed to let her go out on loan for a season. Because in many ways that actually almost benefits the player because they get to play. Chelsea have a buffer because Kerr's contract expires next summer, and I've said before, and I'll stick to it. I don't think Sam Kerr will extend. I think if she extends, I think it will spell the end of Beth England. But I could see a scenario where Chelsea maybe go ahead and sign Lauren James on the assumption that she's happy to be a backup for a season. You have sort of Fran Kirby and Sam Kerr as the sort of first choice strikers, as per se, as that's how they played all season. England's out on loan somewhere, and then next summer Beth England sort of comes back in and slots in with Fran Kirby. And I think also at that point you also have to question whether Pernille Harder will stay after her first contract, because I think she will want to, Pernille Harder's a winning machine, and I think if she wins everything this year with Chelsea, she might do another year in WSL, but inevitably, the fact of the nature of the player she is, she'll want to go and challenge herself and go and win something else, and that's completely sort of fair enough as well.
Okay,
Beth England's already done that though, hasn't she? She went out on loan to Liverpool, and she had a cracking season at Liverpool.
10 goals.
She came back, and she had a fantastic 1 or 2 seasons with Chelsea.
Yeah.
So would you want, as a player, would you want to do that? I guess that's down to the individual. Would you want to do it again? How does that impact you mentally as well?
Yeah. Depends the opportunity. I mean, in theory, if there was an opportunity put forward to go and play in something like, I don't know, NWSL, for instance, or Frauen Bundesliga, I'm just trying to think outside of it. Increasingly, we're starting to see players take the plunge. And, we saw today Anga James at Reading playing her final game, and she's off to go play in NWSL. And that can only be a good thing for the English game, because I think increasingly, one of the areas where the English national team on both sides, men and women, have lagged behind is the fact that players are afraid to go out and play in the international leagues and learn the different styles. And, it's no surprise that you see people like Pernille Harder, for instance, who has played in multiple different leagues and, and Sam Kerr, it was something like 6 different leagues and 5 golden boots now, or something ludicrous like that this afternoon. It's that's the thing I think that's going to elevate English players to the next sort of stratospheric level.
Yeah. We're going to have to bring in Josh. He's been waiting patiently. I've got to say thanks a lot, Rob. Go and enjoy your evening, and I'm sure we'll speak again before the end of the season.
See you guys. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
We're going to bring in Josh. Josh waiting patiently. Is that a Sunderland top, Josh?
Yeah. Last day of the season in League One as well. So put this on earlier on. So playoffs we go.
Yeah. How are you doing, Josh? You okay?
Yeah. All good. Obviously, last day of the season, 0-0 draw with Aston Villa. A little bit of a disappointing way at the end of the season, but the main aim has been secured. Champions League football for next season, which is what we wanted when we knew that obviously we weren't going to win the title. But yeah, Champions League sealed for next season. Probably not the best way to end it with a draw at home, but the job's done, and we have to look ahead to obviously Crystal Palace next week in the FA Cup, and then a big summer of rebuilding, new manager, and probably a whole, well, I wouldn't say a whole rebuild, but I think you'll see a bit of a rebuild in playing staff at Arsenal this season, or come next season as well.
Yeah. Is Miedemar going to stay, do you reckon, now that you got Champions League?
I think she'll stay for one season, next season, and then the season after. Obviously, she's in contract for next season still. Will she re-sign a new contract? I'm not sure. I wouldn't bank on it. I really wouldn't. We'll see how obviously the new coach goes, and we'll see how next season goes. But I don't think she'll leave this summer. 2022 summer could be completely different, but I definitely think she'll stay for one more season at least, and obviously she'll see out her contract. And if she goes on a free, that would be a blow for Arsenal. Of course it would, but I think right now that could be the scenario.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned the manager. Have you got any ideas who might be coming in as your manager?
Do you know what? I have absolutely no idea. This is I had my heart and my head set on Jane Ludlow. I thought it was sort of a certainty, really. I thought obviously with her, obviously she managed Wales, and I thought former Arsenal player. And that was the only one I really thought of out there. Obviously, then she took up a role at Manchester City, so it's not going to be Jane. I have absolutely no idea who's going to take the job. There isn't even a name that sort of springs out. Of course, they've been linked with a few. Carla Ward of Birmingham City being one. I have absolutely no idea how true that is. She's obviously kept Birmingham up with limited resources. A very, very good coach. Could it be a foreign coach? Really not sure at this point. I know applications closed I think it was the 26th of April, and at the minute they'll be interviewing the candidates, but I haven't even heard of any names who have applied for the job, so it'll be as much a surprise to me than any of you guys. There's no names that really strikes me, because like I said, I had my heart and my mind set on Gian Ludlow.
Yeah. What I'm going to do, guys, if you can just hang on a second, I'm going to bring in John. John's a Man United fan. I know he's got Man United have played and wanted this. So he's going to be dashing off to do some work on them. So I'm going to bring John in and let him have his question, get his question across. How you doing, John?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yourself?
We're very good, very good. You finished fourth, as expected this season. Have you got a question for the panel, please?
Yeah, I have. It's about Manchester United, and it'll be interesting to hear it from like a non-biased point of view. So basically, I just wanted to ask, United have closed the gap this season from 13 points to 1 point. Our first 11 games was really good. It got us to the top of the league. But then since then, we've lost 5 games. And our fan base is not divided equally, but divided on whether it's been a good or a bad season. So I just wondered what you guys thought as Manchester United had a good or bad season.
Who wants to take that one first?
Well, no, our City fans that. So
3 City fans.
I'll start. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you won the league in November, but no, that's tongue in cheek. United have done what I thought they would do. To be fair. They've given people a run for their money. Some points have been taken off. I mean, look at the derby at LSV. City started off, they were 2-0 up, pulled it back to 2-2. So there's no doubt about it. I mean, I've got so much respect for Casey Stoney. I've always rated Casey Stoney. When she played, whether it was for Arsenal or for England. The England setup, well respected. She's coached for years because obviously it was not a professional game, so she had another job, and so she's coached for years. So I like Casey Stoney. You finished fourth for the second year on the trot, yeah. So you've had it's consistent. It's growing. You've certainly given sort of Arsenal a run for the money for that third space, and Arsenal obviously got it in the end. But surely it must give you guys hope for the future and see what happens. But it's as a City fan, obviously having a Manchester derby. There was back in Neil's day as the original Manchester City ladies manager. There used to be a derby, and so it's always nice having a derby day again. So yeah, I mean, I think you've done all right this season.
Thank you.
I agree. I think you finished where you were quite. I think any supporter who's critical, I think, is quite frankly being a little bit picky, for the want of a better word. You've done what you should be doing. I mean, you finished fourth last year. You finished fourth again, but you've improved. You've got better players in. Casey Stoney's a really good manager. You're not going to get anybody better than Casey Stoney. So I think you've made steady progress. I think it'd be really harsh to be critical. Next year, if you don't push on next year, then yes. Yeah. I think you should be looking to break into the European, at least into the European Champions League spots next season. And if you don't break into that, then yeah, I would be critical then. But I think after 2 years, I think you've done as well as you could do, really. I think the one thing I would say is as a club that's just starting, obviously you've got great resources and stuff like that. I would be concerned if you lost Lauren to Chelsea. That would be a huge concern if I was a United fan. So, again, we've talked about Beth England, we've talked about a lot of people. What will happen this summer will be huge, for all the clubs, and you know what I mean. So, who goes where, who stays? We've got an Arsenal fan, we've got a United fan. All that is going to make be a massive influence on next season.
Yeah, I'll just pop in and say I think at the start of the season, if you're offered fourth and to be so close at the end, to make up those 13 points, 12, 13 points, I think you'd probably take it. The way I'd look at it is you're probably disappointed because of where you were, and I think that can. It can shadow what you've actually achieved, because I think, like Neil said, you've done what you should be doing, closing that gap, knocking on the door, and yet next season, if you can get Champions League, I think that's the aim. I mean, you might get it through the back door if UEFA decide to increase the Champions League by adding an extra club, so 4 English clubs can get in. You might squeeze that in that way, but you as a United fan, I think you've got to push on. I'll ask Josh the same thing. What do you think about Arsenal, Josh? Obviously, you're an Arsenal fan.
For next season,
well, how do they do this season? I mean, how do you?
Arsenal, I think, have had a pretty decent season overall. I think Arsenal fans will say it's been a disappointing one. Obviously, no silverware, but I think realistically, I think Chelsea and Manchester City obviously are the two strongest squads in the league, and they've got big squads. Arsenal don't have the biggest squad in the league, and have struggled with injuries as well. So to qualify for Europe, I think it's been successful. Of course, Arsenal want to be winning trophies, and next season it will be all about obviously closing the gap on those top two, and that will be the expectation. It'll be interesting to see what happens, obviously, with the new coach, because we all know that Joe Montemurro liked a smaller squad, and if a new coach comes in and the new coach will have resources. Obviously, there is money at Arsenal, so I mean, it'll be all down to just who's appointed as the new manager and what their preferences are. And like I said before, I think there'll be a new playing staff sort of at Arsenal. I think we'll certainly see a few outgoings this summer. I think Malin Gut is certainly one of them. Obviously, a young Swiss player, but homesick, so it looks like she's heading back to Switzerland. And Jill Roord, it looks like she's going to Wolfsburg. I mean, that's been a report this week, and I think that will happen, to be honest. I think.
Josh, I mean, how do you think United did? Obviously, because they finished 1 point behind you, really struggled to overhaul them in a real battle.
I think Man United had an absolutely fantastic season, to be honest. I mean, you got to remember this is only their second season in the top division. So to come that close to qualifying for Europe, obviously they beat Arsenal as well. Ella Toone with the goal at Leeds Sports Village. So they've proven that they can take points off the top teams. That they've taken points of Chelsea this season, and they've taken points of Man City as well. Both obviously at Leeds Sports Village. So disappointing thing for United is they got injuries at bad times to crucial players as well, and that was obviously Tobin Heath was a massive loss. Leah Galton and Alicia Russo as well. Look, if I'm a Manchester United supporter, I'm really happy with the season. Obviously they were top of the league for a period of time, and to miss out in Europe, of course it will be disappointing. But I think you've got to realise just how long that they've been in the WSL. So I think they've had a really successful season. And they troubled Arsenal. They did. They battled right until the end. And Arsenal, it was 1 point different at the end, but Arsenal's goal difference was, for me, the real saviour in the whole thing.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to next season then, John, to try and go that one step better?
Yeah, look, I think what everyone said, I think I actually agree with, and thank you for those honest comments, because being rival fans, you could have dug it in a little bit deeper. But now I agree with everything that you've said. I think at the start of the season, look, I think the target was third, and because we didn't get third, it is a bit of a disappointment, but there's still been progression there. So just because we're fourth, it doesn't mean that we haven't progressed. So as you guys have said, we have closed that gap by 12 points, and we pushed Arsenal right to the last couple of games. as for next season, yeah, we do need to get strength in depth. I think our starting 11 showed at the start of this season that, we can compete, but unfortunately, it takes more than just 11 players. You need a good 20 to compete with the other 3 teams above us. So I think the summer is really important, not just about who we bring in, but also who we may lose. 3 top names. We mentioned LJ. I think that would be a massive loss, but I do think that's going to happen. And then, next season we just need to hit the ground running. I think we need to sort out what goes on behind the scenes regarding the training facilities and all this kind of stuff, because I do think there's been some instability there since December, January time. More than anything, we just need that strength in depth that you guys have got. But definitely looking forward to next season.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, John, for coming on today. Cheers, mate.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And I'll say thanks to Josh as well for coming on, mate. And hope you enjoy.
Can I ask Josh a question?
Go on.
Yeah, Josh, you threw me when you rocked up with a Sunderland shirt on. So, can I ask you what are your thoughts about Sunderland applying for a place in the Championship?
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. It would be incredible. Obviously, it's a massive step up to obviously where they are now. But Sunderland, I hate saying this, but Sunderland deserve to be in the top 2 divisions of English football. And I always say no one deserves a right, but I think the way that Sunderland were treated, really, I think that they do deserve to play in the Championship. And we're a big club, and yes, we're in League One, and obviously in terms of men's football, but we're still a massive club, and I think they'll certainly attract players. It's good to see, and it's a real positive. And for me, it's good to see. Like, if you look at the players who've obviously came through Sunderland, Jordan Nobbs, Lucy Bronze, Demi Stokes. England internationals currently have obviously played for Sunderland and came through the ranks. So shows you how serious the club take women's football as well. Mm-hmm. So it would be absolutely amazing to see them in the Championship. The whole thing has been a bit of a mess, obviously, but if they get in the Championship, it would be absolutely fantastic for not just women's football, but Sunderland Football Club as well.
And the northeast, because
on the northeast,
you've got Durham already there. It'd be nice, and Borough are a pretty good side. They've got to the 4th round of the FA Cup, and to get Sunderland in the Championship as well. I think that obviously strengthens the interest in football there, and keeps. It's more likely to keep younger players in the area rather than having to come down and looking for opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. The northeast is it's a threshold for football. It's that they're so passionate in the northeast about football. So if it gets young players and young girls attracted, then it's absolutely unbelievable. But like I say, Sunderland need to be playing in the top 2 divisions of English women's football as well, because if you look at the history, it's quite incredible just what the club have done.
Yeah, I always used to love the trip up. Where do they play now? Are they back? Are you back at Hetton, or is it still South Shields, or you somewhere else?
Yeah, they play at the training centre. Sometimes they play at the Academy of Light, but which is good. I like the Academy of Light because obviously the pitches are incredible, and when it rains, the game probably won't be off. But then the 23s play at the Academy of Light as well, but they also play at beginning with H, and it just isn't striking my mind as I speak. It will come to me later.
Hetton?
I think so. Yeah. So the play in there as well. So but I think most games would probably be at the Academy of Light, to be honest with you.
Well, I hope that you're successful with it, because Sunderland deserve to be. They weren't treated very well, so they deserve to pick up. Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah, I've got to say massive thanks for coming on today, Josh, and I'm sure we'll see you again. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it. See you later.
See ya. I think my screen just keeps deciding to freeze, guys, so I apologise there. It keeps coming and going. It's all these stacked up with videos. I'm going to try and see if I can play you a video if mine comes back. Or do I ask a question? Let's have a quick look if I can pull up a video for you guys. This is Annette. Let's see if it works.
Hi, my name's Annette Rendell, and my question is, why are the sponsors of the Women's FA Cup failing to mention that Southampton FC and Huddersfield are still in the competition. They're both Tier 4 teams. They're through to the 5th round. Got really big games coming up next week, and they're just not getting a mention. Surely that should be celebrated as a massive success rather than no mention.
I mean, I'll take this first because I actually saw the tweet. I'll dig it out for you and put it on the screen in a minute. I saw that tweet from the sponsors Vitality, and they were bigging up the fact that there were 5 championship teams. Whilst I'm chatting, I'll dig out that tweet, and they said they were, can you spot your team here? And it mentioned all the championship teams there, and I actually said at the time, where are the teams from the Women's National League? Because we actually follow a team on our channel, Women's Football Today. What we did, we started following Brighouse when they were coming through, and once they got knocked out by Huddersfield, we started following Huddersfield, and so we know where they are in the league. So this is the tweet that Vitality have put out. So the 5 championship clubs there, and I think it's a shame that they've ignored the teams below. Even though I think a few people have reminded them that there are 2 teams that are in the league leagues below, and that they should have mentioned them. And it's a shame that Vitality haven't picked that up. Does anybody else have a view on this as well?
So there was no other tweet about the National League. No, I hadn't seen that tweet. To be fair,
yeah, there was nothing about the National League.
That's naughty. That's lazy, really. It's there's no excuse for that. It's poor.
Yeah, totally agree. It actually is beyond poor, really, because you'd have thought that they'd be shouting that from the rooftops, really, wouldn't you? And making it clear that how well they've done and how good it is for the women's game. I'm forever ranting me about the good of the women's game. It's something that 30 years ago I was ranting about, and we continually miss opportunities to shout it from the rooftops and show how good the women's game is and show how well these clubs have done that. Yeah, it's beyond poor, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, with Huddersfield as well, because they top their league, but they've said they haven't got the money to go up to the next division, which is really sad as well. I confess I don't know about Southampton. I tend to follow the northern teams more, despite the accent. But yeah, that's a shocker, really. Not good enough. Yeah. I think we've lost Ray.
Yeah, it's just me and you talking to each other now.
Yeah, obviously we've got the FA Cup fixtures next weekend, haven't we?
I am here.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Is he back?
I'm here in spirit only. I've got 2 laptops. I think because I've uploaded so many videos to work, you might see me there on one of them. In my studio here, it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, we can see you left here. Yeah,
make myself look a bit better. Let's go back.
Lost him again.
I think I've come back properly. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Can hear you. Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me? Oh,
just
dear.
Phil.
Should we go back to talking about penalties again?
I don't think we're quite that desperate yet, are we?
No. I'll be having nightmares about penalties for the next week. I think.
It's just frustrating. Just frustrating.
I think. Hats off to the goalkeeper. That, by the way, they were good saves. You know what I mean? But yeah,
she had a cracking game today. Was it Arnold? I don't know.
Yeah. She did. She had a great game. She had a belting game. Yeah. And they rolled a lot, but they defended really well. And the centre back Sissoko was excellent. Other than the mistake for the goal, unfortunately for her, but she defended brilliantly as well. And they looked very organised, West Ham, actually.
They did. Yeah.
Franceschi deserves a lot of credit for that. Really, they were very organised.
I'm going to bring Jenny in. Sorry, guys, I've got 2 laptops on.
Oh, there she is. Hi, Jen.
Hi,
All
Joe.
right, Neil. How's you?
Hiya.
Well, obviously we finished second, and my question was, where do you see City needing to strengthen for next season? Because otherwise, it's just going to be pretty much the same.
I'm going to go back to what I've said about 40 times tonight. It depends on who stays first and foremost, then who gets brought in. If the Americans stay, then brilliant. I do think Rosie's well capable of way more, and I think another season would see a big difference with her. I think she'd almost become another, almost like a new signing, because she's not produced. There's no getting away from it. She's not, but there's no doubt she's top quality, and I think another season would see a big improvement with her. It depends on. Yeah, I think we need a centre forward. As brilliant as Alan is, and as brilliant as Alan has been, we need a centre, and we need someone with a better pace up front. We get behind people down the flanks with Chloe and Lauren, obviously, but you know, we need somebody who's quick up top as well, I think. And you know, Steph's not going to last forever, as much as we love her to. So, do we need to look at another centre half, or are we going to develop Esme? But like I say, for me, it's more about who stays than who comes in at the minute.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, we don't know what's happening yet with Sam and Rose. I'm just sort of trying to think who else's contracts might be up to. Is it possibly Janine? You know, she's not played too much this season either. Aoife Mannion, she's just finished her second season, although, of course, she wasn't around for most of her first season because of her ACL. You know, a very well-established centre-half. You know, she's not getting minutes. I saw she wasn't even on the bench today, so whether she's picked up another knock, I don't know. You know, is she in the plans to develop? Because we've got a pretty versatile back line. You know, Aoife can play centre-half and right back as well. Esme can play pretty much right across the back. And that season at Everton has proved, you know, she's proved her worth, really. I think Esme's had a great season. But yeah, I guess it depends upon who else may leave as well, because I think Ellen's done 2 seasons. Because typically we tend to sign people for 2 seasons. I'm just sort of trying to think, who did I watch when I was in the stadiums last for the first time? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer, I think.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think that Rose's problems might have been a bit like Sam Kerr had, where the first season she didn't really do much. She struggled a bit to settle in, and I'd like to see them both stay, really, but I don't know. It's just I know we've had a good season, but it's just kind of disappointing that, you know, we finished behind Chelsea when we know we're capable of so much better.
I would say this though, for me, the reason that, I mean, it went to the last game. The reason we didn't win it was because of really early on in the season, and changing the manager. You know, we've had Nick for so long, and we knew what Nick was doing, and Gareth's come in, and it took a bit of time, and that was the problem. Had it not taken as much time as it did for him to settle under the Gareth, then we dropped points to, who was it, Brighton and Reading, was it?
Brighton, Reading, United.
I mean, the United game was a disaster because you know, quite frankly, we should have been 5-0 up at half time and blew it. But you know, dropping points to Reading and Brighton, Chelsea don't do that. You know what I mean? So
Brighton beat Chelsea. The only team who've beaten Chelsea this season was actually Brighton. So, you know, kudos to Brighton, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, Grimes, you're taking 5 points off City and Chelsea. But generally, you know, you can't afford to drop points like that and then win the league. Not 3 times and lose to Chelsea as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You could lose to Chelsea and drop 1 more point, yeah, maybe, but you can't. And I don't think that's happening if obviously, that's the new manager coming in and, getting himself established and the way he wants to play and so on and so forth. And that's why I think we slipped up in the end. Other than that, listen, Chelsea have been unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. Everybody's clicked. I was one of the critics of Sam Kerr, being honest. I thought she didn't finish enough of her chances. I thought her conversion rate was poor, and she's been brilliant, especially in the latter halves of the season. They've been brilliant, and you can't argue. But again, we showed the other week that we were as good as, if not, on the day, we're as good as them. We should have beat them at home. We should have beat them. Simple as that. And there isn't a massive difference. There isn't a massive gap. And equally, it could be the other way around next season, that we sweep the board and Chelsea fall short. You know what I mean? It really is that close, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Neil. It's come down to one extra drawn game, because City and Chelsea, we've both lost a game. Mm-hmm. So, and then we've drawn 4 games. They've drawn 3 games.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. Yeah. It's that fine, and it's happened to us before, a few seasons ago. It was that fine line, and like you say, we had 5 new players come in. We've had a new manager, having to do with all the COVID as well. Obviously, we had players out sort of January as well with the COVID gate, Dubai gate, whatever we called it. It's. I think we've done well. I think we've scored. We've scored more goals this season. I think we've scored more points this season. So, we've won the FA Cup. Yeah. It was last season's FA Cup, but we've walked away with the trophy. With the amount of change that's gone on. Because again, off pitch, we talked about it earlier. We're travelling to away games. All the different COVID conditions as well that you have to deal with. Things that players have got to get their heads round and all that. I guess it all goes in part of the match day routine. That changes as well. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea have just been amazing. Kerr and Kirby. I mean, it's. I follow England as well. So to see. Fran Kirby recover from a really serious illness, which thought she might actually not play again, to come back, and the strike partnership that Kerr and Kirby have formed is, I mean, who wouldn't want them?
Absolutely.
They've been amazing, and that you could also argue that save from Ann-Katrin Berger against when we were playing in the academy. I mean, it's title winning, isn't it?
It won the league. Simple as that. We win there, right? We win the league. What I mean? That goes in. She doesn't make that save. We win the league. Yeah. That's it's a title winning, and I say that's such that. It's important to stress that's how fine a line it is. You know what I mean? And not, years gone by, years to come, you look, oh well, Chelsea won the league, but nobody will remember that's how close it was. That's. And that's top level football. It really is. It can be just that little difference or that.
We lost Neil there. We lost Neil. Oh, I think we lost Neil. You got me back, even though I'm frozen. Thanks a lot, Jenny, for your question.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Please, I'm going to bring you the next guest. I'm going to bring you the next guest. If I can. Ooh.
Hey. Hello there.
Hi. I think we're just trying to get Ray back. I think he's having some gremlins.
There's always some gremlins in the system.
Are you there, Adam?
Hi there. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know whether we were good to go or not like that. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, yeah. I just want first thing to say, to add my congratulations to Chelsea. What a wonderful season they've had. Deserved champions. The standard they've set is so high, it's ridiculous. It really is. Kirby, top class partnership. I can't say anything negative about them at all. From watching them early this season, first game of the season against us, when we drew with them, I thought we had a chance this season. The injuries that we had derailed it massively after January, and I just on here just to say congratulations to Chelsea and looking forward to next season. I just hope that we can get something sorted in the summer, because I personally believe if we didn't have the injuries, we'd be right up there with Chelsea and City this season, because the forward line we had, Russo, Heath, Press, Lauren James, Leah Galton, Kirsty Hansen, was top class. It really was. And to have that absolutely decimated to basically being left with only Jane Ross up front, who, fair play, good player in her time, but is not up to the standard of Kerr and Kirby and Russo at the minute, it just really hurt us. And it really that's why we got the results that we did after Christmas, January time. Just purely because of the injuries. Because before then, we'd been flowing, full flow. We'd matched City twice. We matched City, beat them in the Conti Cup, and it was on penalties, and so they went through all that malarkey. And then we drew with Chelsea at home, obviously the first game, and then we beat Arsenal. So the results were there. We had the results. And then the injuries. It's just such a huge missed opportunity. To not get European football this season, it's just really heartbreaking, because I feel for all of those players at the club who put the heart and soul into this. I fully believe, and they really gave their all. Just to come up 1 point short. I know the goal difference. 1 point short. It's just really so fine margins. The results that we had, especially the 4 defeats in 6 games or something we had recently, that just it's just mind blowing the closeness we had. I just so believe that we had the squad to do it. I just hope, and this is what I just hope it wasn't a case of all or nothing, boom or bust situation. Which in terms of this was a unique opportunity this season, due to the global pandemic, how we got Press and Heath. And so, because we're such a brand new club, first full season now, yay! First full season completed in the WSL, that it was brought them in the hope of securing the first proper big money of Champions League football in the women's season. And so we put all our eggs in those players helping us to do it, and they're not doing so, thereby suffering the effects of missing out on Champions League money, and so thereby affecting our budget. And, we all know what's going on with the protests and everything at the club at the minute, and how that's having an effect on the finances of the club. And so that's obviously going to affect the finances not just of the men, but presumably of the women as well. It's all kind of tied in. And so I just hope that this summer is not a case of we lose Press, we lose Heath. Possibly there's rumours of even Lauren James joining her brother at Chelsea. If she goes, wow, that's going to leave a whole massive hole there, and there's going to be so much pressure on Russo and Fuso, similar names, to try and fill the gap there for the goals that we need to get. And if the pressure on them is, I don't want to put the pressure on them too much. But the fact is, they are at the minute our only players that we got that can really score goals if the players, as expected, leave. And so next season is already looking a bit iffy. With Everton, I know they didn't look all that much good today, to be fair, neither did we in the second half, up until the second goal, which we desperately needed. If they can get their stuff together, Everton, with Guoivan, who I think is a top-class striker, I really do think she's fantastic. I don't know why they started her on the bench. Was she injured? I don't know their situation. But if they can get her fit, and with Christensen there as well, who I came from our academy, who's a top-class player, I think they could be really in for pushing us next season if not finish quite above us. Sorry for the rant.
Yeah, look, you're a fan who wants to see the best for your club, Adam. And obviously, I guess you're a bit disappointed from where you were before Christmas and to where you've ended up losing too many games at the death when it's really mattered. Was the job too much for Casey Stoney?
I don't think it was too much, but you have to remember she is still, for all the hype and everything. I have total respect for her for the job she's done. Come in, no squad, no coaches, nothing, brand new on a piece of paper. She was literally the only member of our women's team, and to fill the whole squad, whole coaches, to win the league. I know for only professional team in championship and all that, but to actually do what she did. 4th place last season before it was cut off. 4th place this season, closer in points, obviously. To do what that, I think she's still consistently learning. That's the thing. She's nowhere near her prime as a manager yet, and so each day is a learning curve for her. And hopefully, this will be a learning spot for her in terms of where we failed, where we need to improve. There's lots there. I mean, I think her man management is very, very good. Because you don't really hear of any fallings out of any players. They all, whenever you hear them talk, they all talk very well. I mean, Press and Heath, they've only been here a short while, and already you can hear them talk gushingly about her. I think that's very, very good for a new manager. Relatively still new manager. And so I wouldn't swap her for anybody else. I want her to stay as our manager now. But if we drop back next season, if we don't have a good summer this in terms of transfers, ins and outs, and we still got contracts to sort out. Jackie Gronin's one last year in the contract is next season coming up. I think we've got some other players last year, the contracts as well. And we've got the situation of Amy Turner as well, because Ingrid James is obviously going to America, and they're obviously partners. So do we lose Amy Turner as well this summer? That's still up in the air. Nobody's really answered that yet. So that would break up the crucial Turner and Turner partnership at the back. And so there's a heck of a lot of questions to be answered this summer. And I fully believe that Casey can do it, but it's going to be hugely hard for her. The whole situation at the club at the minute, with the men's side, all the protests and everything, it's just a bit, I don't want to say toxic, but it's not helping the women's team, I believe. I mean, we don't have a training facilities yet finalised. Sometimes we're at Carrington, sometimes we're at Lee, sometimes we're elsewhere. So there's still a lot to sort out there, just in terms of training, everything with the club. I want us to be more professional in that sense and have the club's backing with the women's team. I mean, the City, they're fantastic with their mini stadium and the training facilities there. I mean, I hate to say I'm envious, but I am envious of that situation.
We know you
there.
are.
And so I don't like to say that, rivalry and everything, but sometimes you go through.
Adam, sometimes it cleanses the soul. It's good for the soul to say that you're jealous of City, and we don't mind.
No, I didn't say jealous. Envious. There's a fine margin there. Fine margin.
Somebody's got
Adam, I got to say,
us out.
Thanks for coming on tonight, Adam. We've got a couple more people to come on, thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you for letting me just expose my soul like that.
Cheers, Adam. We'll see you around soon. Thanks a lot.
See you later. Bye.
We'll bring in Alan. We've got Alan waiting. How you doing, Alan?
Evening, folks. How are we all doing?
We're all right, Alan. How are you?
Greetings from gloomy Belfast, especially after that show today. Unfortunately, my heart is still cracked after all the suffering they've put us through this season. But that's why we support them, isn't it? It's always interesting. It's always good fun.
This is the most. I think this is the most number of points Manchester City have got in a WSL season. So it's not bad. They haven't lost too many games. A couple of that where it's mattered, but it's the same way when you look at United and say they've had a good season. I think Man City have had a good season. It's not as good as you'd like it to be, but you got to give Chelsea credit because they are exceptional at the moment. They're in the Champions League final because they're a blooming good side, and they won the WSL because they're a blooming good side. I mean, you might say it through gritted teeth, but they're a good side. Have you got a question for us, Alan?
I do. I've actually got a couple, but unfortunately, most of the previous guests have covered the majority of the questions that I was going to ask. But I've got another one for you. How much do you feel the injuries have impacted City this season? As you mentioned there, this was our best season on paper. We've had our highest number of points tally, we've had our highest number of goals, and some of the signings that we've had this season have just been outstanding. Chloe Kelly has been an absolute joy to watch. Lauren Hemp has come on this season. She's challenged to be one of the best players of the season. We recently had our official supporters club vote to see who was the best player, and unsurprisingly, it was Chloe Kelly and Lauren Hemp, and also Sam Mewis in the top three. So it shows that those three players, especially this season, and Sam Mewis, she's only been here for the one season as well, they've just completely taken the City team by storm. And to show that has continued, hopefully next season we'll be able to mount an even better challenge, because even though this season, as we said, was the best one we've had in the history, we've still come second, and we can't believe that, to say we've had our best season in the WSL and we've still not won the title. So what else can we do? What do they have that we don't? What do we need for next season?
Do you want to do that, Jude?
Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, obviously our back line took a bit of a battering. I think sometimes Steph's leadership on the pitch, is that has a big influence on how we play. I mean, we obviously lost Lauren at the Community Shield. Was the Community Shield? Was it? Yeah, it was.
Right at the start, yeah.
Yeah. So with hamstring, so she was out for a while. But we're not a one-person team. We've got a pretty big squad there. So I don't think per se the injuries there. I mean, some of the injuries have been long-term. I mean, obviously we've lost. Gemma Bonner was injured, had COVID, and has now taken her opportunities in the States. Demi. I really rate Demi as a player. She's probably one of the most underrated players in the squad, and England. She's really struggled with a reoccurring hip injury, but I think Esme's slotted in there really well. And I think it's been quite interesting seeing Alex move into centre half, because I genuinely thought that she'd be fighting, her and Demi would be fighting for that left back. But I've actually quite liked seeing Alex play this season. She's really impressed me, to be fair, with Alex. Who else did we have? Did we have Lucy out for a bit? Yeah, that was over COVID gate, wasn't it? We had Lucy out for a bit. So
mentioned that.
But have I missed anybody? Aoife's coming back from ACL. I'm just trying to think of, is there anybody we've missed? We've lost Jill to Everton on loan.
We lost Laura for a little bit, but not too long.
Yeah. So I don't think it really has. I think we've built that squad, and we've pretty much got two players for each position. And the back, we've said earlier on the show, the back line are fairly interchangeable. We've got players that can slot in multiple places. So, I don't think the injuries, if you look at some of the other clubs, like talking there before, United, they really struggled with their injuries. They were top of the league. They've struggled. So they need to go and do what they need to go and do. But I don't think City have. But I think it's going to be then the case of Lavelle. Just trying to think, Lavelle. She's been injured on and off as well, and she's actually struggled to get in the team. But yeah, I don't think it's really knocked us. What do you think, Ray?
Well, I mean, I don't think the injuries per se, like you say, I don't think the injuries have been the issue. We've got one of the best, strongest squads and in-depth squad in the league. So I don't think the injuries have. Look, you're going to miss Lauren Hemp. I think some people will argue losing her at the start of the season, whilst the new players were bedding in, was tough, because Lauren Hemp is, I'll say a world-class player. She's a world-class player. Her stats since she's come back have been fantastic. Load of goals, load of assists, and she's missed, let's say, half the season. So to lose her at the start in games where we were struggling to be creative and penetrative and clinical, I think that hurt us. And how do we improve? I think we need another striker, an additional striker. I'm not saying get rid of Ellen, but I think we need someone with a bit more pace, someone with a bit more, I'd say, physicality, a bit more power as well. And maybe that's why they're looking at apparently Khadija Shaw. Almost 6 foot, good in the air. Towers. We'll have 2 towers of power then if Sam Mewis stays, because I think she's almost 6 foot as well. So I think that would make a difference. I think sometimes I was watching us today. Sometimes I just think we were sloppy today, and it might be it's end of season. City know from early on in the game that they're not going to win the title, but and maybe the pitch isn't the best. It was a bit bobbly, someone was saying, but they were too sloppy. And quite honestly, I don't see Chelsea being that sloppy with the ball. We're supposed to be a possession-based team. We keep that ball, and we were giving it away far too easily today. And that's just one example. So I just think an extra year to develop for the younger players, to fit in for the new players, whoever stays around. Hopefully Chloe will be back 7 or 8 months, it might be, but she'll be back. Let's say Christmas time, maybe a little after, for the second half of the season. And as I said, everybody else just carries on developing, and we will buy some more players. I don't, especially if we do lose Sam and we lose Rose, they got to be replaced. And I can see us buying probably 3 players this summer, and it's just going to depend upon the quality of those players, the experience. And we can't forget the manager as well, because he needs more time. We saw at the start of the season, people were questioning a lot of calls for. I even saw a few calls for his head early on in the season, which was crackers. And people were blaming him for Gareth Taylor for the problems in the squad, and then not getting the results that we were expecting to get against teams like Brighton and Reading. So he'll have another year under his belt, and I think all those things will make us stronger. Look, but I've got to go back and say Chelsea are a phenomenal side, and it isn't a disgrace to finish second to them. With the players they've got, the depth in the squad they've got, and the manager and everything. So it's like, as I said about the United fans, you might be feeling a bit disappointed as City fans to finish second. We've come so close. But you've got to try and stand back and not look at it as a fan and just say, it's actually been a good season. It's just that someone's done better, and you tip your hat to them. Alan, thanks a lot, mate. Have you got any more questions, or is that you got another one?
I can stick one more in, yeah. Okay. You were talking about having some more players brought in. I do think we do need to get a couple more players in, but there's one player who I think in the mid-season she demonstrated that she does have the skill, she does have the pace, she has the ability, but then she kind of wasn't really given a lot of game time later on in the year. Jess Park, do you reckon she'll have much of a say in the team next season?
Bring Jude in for this.
I hope so. I think she's a cracking player. I mean, the assist that she gave for Georgia at the FA Cup final, that was great. She'd just come on the pitch. I hope so, and possibly with Chloe being out as well, may give her a bit of opportunity, because you normally see her running down the line. I mean, she's a diehard City fan, and I know we were talking about this with Beth England being a Chelsea fan, but she's a diehard City fan, and obviously as a City supporter, you like to see your one of your owns doing well. So yeah, it'd be good to see more time. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know whether she just couldn't get on today, but I think didn't Gareth trying to bring her on something like the 93rd minute?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe could have brought her on a little bit sooner, but that's above my pay grade. But yeah, it would be nice to see Jess getting some more minutes.
And one more, if I may. They've recently announced in the Premier League that they're going to allow some fans back into the stadiums, with obviously the women's fan base not being as big. maybe 2,000 people would be the perfect amount for a women's game. But the question is, would that be sooner rather than later, or would it be something that would happen at the start of next season? Because I think the fans at the women's game will make a world of difference, not just for City, but for any women's team out there, just to get the fans back in and cheer the girls on.
Definitely. I mean, I'll put it out there. I've said it to quite a few people that I would like to see the clubs change the FA Cup fixtures for next weekend. You know, move them to, and I know it's really difficult with organising the women's fixtures because most of the teams ground share with another team. So it is always difficult getting fixtures anyway, but it would be amazing if they said, right, okay, we're not going to play next Sunday, the 16th of May, because that's the day before the 17th of May, sort of new timeline. We're going to push that to maybe midweek. You know, that would be amazing, and get some fans in. You know, will it happen? Probably not. I would love to be proved wrong, though. I would absolutely love to be proved wrong.
For me,
I think going forward, you're right. You know, a couple of thousand. You know, for a lot of clubs, you know, that's almost a normal game attendance. But you know, if you look at places like the Academy Stadium, you know, it's a 7,000 seater stadium. The Matchday, obviously, you know, it's a full size stadium. Lee, you know, they're more than capable of having, you know, fans back in at a higher number. Then obviously you start to come down and look at the likes of Arsenal's and City's, Chelsea, sorry, and sort of through the division. But Birmingham, they're going to be playing at St Andrews Park. No, have I got that right? St Andrews. Andrews, that's it. Yeah, sorry. They're going to be playing there next season. You know, again, it's a full-size stadium. So, you know, we don't know where Leicester are going to play. Apparently they've got to move to a new ground because Quorn's 3 or 4G. So yeah, I'd love it. But yeah, come on, FA and the clubs, sort out the FA Cup final, the FA Cup round to get some fans in.
I don't think they're going to do it. It'd have been nice if even if they'd done a couple of games. A couple of games is better than nothing. They could have found a couple of, you know, ask the clubs, are you happy to move it? I'm sure some clubs would have said, if you know, it'd be nice to get even 200 or 300 fans into a ground to watch a game. It's giving something back to the fans by delaying it. I don't know if this is anything to do with the Olympics, and you know the squads need a rest, and you know they can't hold them back for an extra couple of 2 or 3 days. But it's a massive shame. I think I heard some numbers where they were talking about grounds could have 18% of capacity, which isn't great. But I think for something like City, 18% of capacity is actually a reasonable number. It's about 1,600 fans, or a bit less.
Is it the capacity of the stadium, or is it the capacity of what your average normal attendance would have been? Because obviously, if you look at somewhere like, even the Academy Stadium, you know, it's a 7,000 capacity stadium.
Yeah.
Or Leeds Sports Village is 12,000.
Yeah. So I don't think they can, Jude. I don't think they can do it based upon what your crowd was, because you know, let's say Birmingham are playing at a 25,000 seater stadium or 35,000 seater stadium next season, and they're going to say, well, actually, you know, your crowds were only 500, so we're only going to let you have 80% of 500, which is, you know, is basically 100 fans, 90 fans in a 35,000. No, I think it's got to be based upon the size of the stadium, because then if you still need social distancing, you can do it quite comfortably. So you know, it could be a club might say, look, okay, because you know the women's team are playing at a small ground, let's see if we can play a few of the games at the big stadium, the men's stadium, if they're affiliated with a men's club, so that will allow a lot more fans to enter. You know, if you look at the Etihad, you know, on an 18% basis, we could have about just over 9,000 fans, and that would comfortably cover everybody who wanted to go, who would normally go to a home game. So it's an interesting one. It's a shame, like you say, that they don't delay just by 2 days. That's all it needed, 2 days. Or there's a bank holiday weekend the weekend after, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's Massive shame. Alan, got to say thank you for your call, for your questions.
Thanks for having me. Jude, good to see you again. I'll speak to you soon.
Yes, you too, Alan. Take care.
Right, I'm going to rattle through some videos because I seem to be working at the moment. Let's go through some videos before we disappear. Let's find. Let's see. I said who I'll get. I don't want to pull all the Man City fans up. Let's go with Ray.
Hi all. Sorry I couldn't appear live on the show today, but my team, Blackpool FC girls and ladies, have a friendly against Altrincham FC this afternoon. But I do have one question for the show, and that is, do you think that leagues at grassroots level should have a playoff system rather than just one team promoted and one team relegated? Anyway, thanks for your time and good luck with the show.
That's Ray Barlow. His question basically is: should there be? I guess as well, you could say, should there be more than one team going up and down? It's just at the moment, like Leicester going up, Bristol City coming down, and then at grassroots, he's asking whether it should be more than just one. I guess more than one club. What do you think, Jude?
He mentioned playoffs. To be honest, I've never liked playoffs. If you're not good enough to be in the spots for promotion, then you don't go up. And maybe that's a bit blunt, but that's my humble opinion. It's hard, isn't it? And a lot of this, and it's sad to say, but a lot of this comes down to the money as well in the women's game. And I want to see these leagues growing. Hopefully, with these new TV deals, we'll start to see more money sort of trickling down into the women's game and into grassroots. There's talk of increasing the licenses for the Champions League, the Championship for next season. So, is that 2? Are they looking to maybe increase that for another 2? I'm not sure. I've not read up on it, if I'm being honest. But it would be nice to see 2 come up, and then obviously you've got to look at the flip side as well. You've got to have relegation as well. So, and ideally you want to keep the league to even numbers. And I think the Championship is an odd number. Yeah. At the moment. So yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously we've seen it happen. I think the last time it happened for the Super League was when United and Tottenham came up, and I think it was just one that went down. They were trying to sort of even things out a little bit, but I'm all for promotion. If it grows the game and if it gives opportunities, I think certainly in a lot of the National League this year, where they've literally had 2 seasons just wiped out, and people haven't had the opportunity to be promoted when they should have been really. If there's things that can be done around that to make it sort of fairer for the teams, I'm absolutely all for that. But yeah, I don't like playoffs.
Yeah, that's part of me likes playoffs because it's exciting. But then there's always that argument that a team that has finished, let's look at what goes on in the men's game in the Championship. A team that's finished 6th ends up in a playoff with a team that's finished 3rd, and they could be 20 points off them, and it just feels so unfair. If you want to do that, let that 13th place go up, and maybe have the players between 4, 5, 6. And 16 in the Premier League. Maybe do that, so you potentially have 4 clubs going down, and that makes it exciting. I know they do that in something like that in the French 2nd division, because I only know that because one of the Manchester City sister clubs that they own, Estac Troy, they're miles clear at the top of their division, but of the 4th place team, the 3 teams go up, and they have to wait because there's a playoff system from 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and the team in the league, the top division, and so they have to wait to see if they drop down and end up in the playoffs. It's extremely unlikely, and you think they're so far ahead. It feels unfair to have to wait. And actually, they did get promotion yesterday, so they've done that. I'm going to try and get another video up. I think the problem we're having is with the videos, because every time I play a video, my system says I don't like that. So let's.
Should we have a quick look at the chat?
Yeah, let's do
Ben was
what we're
asking-
doing. I'll just say some highs because obviously people have been on for a while. Say hi to Alexandros Renza, to Ben, to Jenny who's here. We've seen Emma, John Hume.
John Hume's praying for the Sunderland promotion.
Yeah, and there was one other which I've lost now.
Any news on the Liverpool manager? That's rumoured to be Matt Beard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's rumoured to be going back
rumours
because he was there. He went down to West Ham and then across to he struggled at West Ham, if truth be told. Then he went across to Bristol City and he nearly kept them up. And the rumour's been around for a little while that whatever happened to Bristol, he'd be going back to Liverpool and to try to get them back into the Super League. And obviously with a team like Liverpool and with they're not getting the backing from the men's. It seems a lot of fans are very unhappy about their situation.
Yeah, I know their women's supporters club doing a lot of good work there as well.
Yeah,
to sort of build
Sports Club. Yeah. Just quick say hi to Sean because that's the other person I missed off the comments. Try and pull up just a couple more videos and go through them quite quickly. Let's pull up Ian.
Hi, it's Ian Chiverton here. My question is, do you think the promotion criteria for the National League is fair? Teams are being awarded points on a mixture of on-the-field results and off-the-field criteria. Should this have been the case, or should teams who are currently in the top four of each league been allowed to play each other off in a playoff to decide who goes up?
I think that's an interesting question. I mean, I've looked at... I've been following the Women's National League this season, and you got a situation where I think what they're looking at is averaging the points over the last two seasons, and looking at what's gone on off the pitch as well. What the facilities are like, and then clubs have to apply for a promotion. I think Huddersfield have already said they're not going to go for promotion; they can't afford it, and they'd rather do it in a more sustainable way. What do you think, Jude? Should it just be what happens on the pitch?
It's really hard, this one. I kind of feel I'm sitting on the fence a bit. My heart wants to tell me, it should be 100% what happens on the pitch. But I'm also conscious that there are criteria for playing in the leagues. And a lot of it is around the facilities, the stadia, as well. So, I'm assuming that's because obviously the FA want to try and grow the game and improve that way. So it's really hard. Is it not something like 75% pitch, 25% off pitch? I can't
remember what it is.
WSL licenses and it's the same for every league. It's not just the National League. It's the same for all of them. So obviously we talked about Sunderland earlier. They'll be subject to so much on the pitch, so much off the pitch. But yeah, I mean, I guess from the WSL's point of view, if you could, it's hard because you kind of think if you're good enough, you should be there.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to be rocking up and playing on a park or with a sort of a rundown stand and things like that, and the players aren't getting the facilities and the support, and it's like the whole sports science and things like that as well. So it's difficult. It's difficult, but it absolutely has to be really heavily weighted to on the pitch as well.
Yeah. I've got to say thanks a lot, Jude. I will call it a day because it would appear that all the videos that we get are the problem. I think this is the second time we've had an issue. It's because we pre-record. As I said, people send their questions in because they can't make the show because people have got busy lives, kids, or they're playing sport or watching sport. And I think it seems to be anyway, uploading so many videos crashes the system. So I will be going to see my service provider. It's nothing to do with the internet. It's not the internet. It's actually, I think it's actually the system we're using. But anyway, we will work on that, and hopefully we'll try and do another. We'll have at least one more show like this season, maybe two, and we'll try and improve things. And it is for next season we'll do that. But thanks a lot for coming on tonight, Jude.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's always a pleasure. And the way I see it is, if the system's crashing because you're getting too many people involved, then you're doing a good job
Well, I've got 17. I've got 17 people tonight. I had 17 people, and somebody else is trying to send me a video because he's watching the men's game, so he's trying to send me at halftime. So it's from that point of view, it's been a success that we've had. I think tonight we've had so many people. Oh, I mean, there's my list. There's my list of full page of people who wanted to contribute, and we've managed to get everybody who wanted to appear live on. So I think that's the way we'll try and go more often, is try and get more people on live, and then at least the system doesn't crash, and we can have a little bit better at technology. And it's all a learning experience for next season. But thanks a lot, Jude, and thanks everybody for getting involved and joining in, and like Ben and other people who are in, like John and everybody else. Please, if you want to come on and ask a question, you can do it by audio or video, or you can write a question. We'll try and take more written questions in future. It's just that we had so many people who wanted to come on tonight that the time's just flown by. But thanks a lot, everybody, for joining in, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week, guys. We'll see you next week after the FA Cup 5th round.